Hello everyone, welcome back to another What's for Dinner video, or welcome if you are new. My name is Veronica, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you some super easy and delicious meals that I fixed for my family this past week, and I hope it can give you and your family some meal inspiration or maybe some new meal ideas to try. Let's get to cooking! This night for supper I made Crockpot Lasagna. The first thing that I done was brown 1 pound of lean ground beef. And whenever my ground beef was no longer pink, I then added in 1 small diced up sweet onion and 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. I then gave all of those ingredients a good stir, and then I just let that cook for a couple of minutes. And after letting that cook for an additional couple of minutes, I then took those ingredients and drained the grease off of them. I then returned my skillet back to my stovetop with my stovetop turned off, and I poured in a jar of spaghetti sauce. I then poured in a cup of water into my spaghetti sauce jar and just kind of swished that around, and I poured that into my skillet as well. I wanted to make sure that I got all of my spaghetti sauce in there, and then I gave those ingredients a good stir. I love fixing crockpot lasagna, 1, because it's delicious, and 2, it's so easy to make. After I got my meat sauce done, I then moved over to the other side of my counter and I started on my cheese mixture. In a large bowl, I added in a 16-ounce container of small curd cottage cheese. If you don't like cottage cheese, you could also use ricotta cheese. We prefer the cottage cheese in our lasagna. We just think that it tastes better. After I got my cottage cheese added, I then added in 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of grated Parmesan cheese, and about 1.5 cups of finely shredded mozzarella cheese, and some pepper to taste. Once I got all of those ingredients added to my bowl, I gave all of those ingredients a good stir to make sure everything was well combined. I then moved over to my crock pot to start layering my lasagna. In the bottom of my crock pot, I poured in about 1 cup of the meat mixture. I then topped the meat mixture with my lasagna noodles. You can break up your lasagna noodles to make sure that they fit in your crock pot. I then topped my lasagna noodles with a layer of my cheese mixture. I then just repeated those steps, and I ended up with 3 layers total, and I ended my final layer with a layer of meat sauce. How many times can I say layer? I then placed my lid on my crock pot and I cooked it on low for 4 hours. After 4 hours, my lasagna was finished cooking. I then poured about 1/2 cup of grated Parmesan cheese on top and about 1/2 cup of finely shredded mozzarella cheese. And I placed my lid back on my crock pot and I let that cook for an additional 10 minutes, just until that cheese was melted. And this is what it looks like whenever it's finished cooking, and then it's ready to serve. And here's my bowl of my delicious, super easy crockpot lasagna. This night for dinner, I fixed a Mississippi pot roast. I haven't fixed a Mississippi pot roast in a long time, and it's one of my favorite pot roasts, and it's super easy to make. I used a little over 3.5 pounds of a chuck roast, and I like to sear my chuck roast on each side just to lock in that flavor, and then I add it to my crock pot. And then I sprinkle a pack of ranch seasoning mix on top of my chuck roast. And then I sprinkle a pack of au jus gravy mix on top of that. I then slice up a stick of butter and I place that on top. I then add 5 pepperoncini peppers on top, and I also pour just a little bit of the pepperoncini juice into my crock pot as well. Whenever I first made this, I thought that the pepperoncini peppers and the juice would make it too spicy, but it really doesn't. It gives it a really good flavor. I then place my lid on my crock pot and I cook that on low for 8 hours. After 8 hours, I then remove the pepperoncini peppers, and that way I can shred my meat without shredding the peppers in there as well. And I use my meat chopper to shred my meat. If you don't have a meat chopper, you can also use 2 forks. By this point, it's super tender, so it's very easy to shred. And here's my plate. I also fixed some mashed potatoes, some brown sugar glazed carrots, and some Rhodes Dinner yeast rolls to have as a side. And this was an easy, delicious meal. This night for dinner, we had an appetizer kind of night. I started off by fixing some barbecue Little Smokies in the crock pot. I added a 28-ounce package of Little Smokies into my crock pot. I then added in 3/4 of a cup of grape jelly and 1 cup of barbecue sauce. I then just gave everything a gentle stir, and then I placed my lid on my crock pot and I let that cook on high for an hour and a half. I also fixed some pigs in a blanket to have with our meal, and the way that I make my pigs in a blanket are super easy. I take 1 can of crescent rolls and I cut them in half using my pizza cutter. And whenever I get them cut in half, I then take some Little Smokies and I place them in the crescent roll and I roll them up, and then I place them onto a baking sheet. And this made a total of 16 pigs in a blanket. You can also double this recipe if you would like, if you want more pigs in a blanket, but this was great for us. Once I get all of my pigs in a blanket added to my silicone baking mat, I take some Parquet squeeze butter and I add a drop of butter to each one, and then I just brush the butter on. I then place them in the oven that I had preheated to 375 degrees, and I bake them between 12 and 15 minutes until they are golden brown. I also fixed some Tennessee Pride sausage balls, and you can find them in the frozen food section. They are easy and delicious, and I just fixed them according to the package directions. And here's my plate. We had a very busy day and we just wanted a simple but delicious meal, and this was perfect. This night for supper, I fixed homemade McRib sandwiches, and I used the Banquet Backyard Barbecue boneless patties, and I just fixed those according to the package directions. They are super easy, and in our opinion, they are better than the McDonald's McRib sandwiches. I've not felt the best since Thanksgiving, so I've not cooked a whole lot of big meals. It's been a lot of simple, easy meals, and this is one of our favorite easy meals. And like I said, they're super easy. And I also fixed some French fries to have as a side. That's it for today's video. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.